Hey, cool. So, welcome everyone to this week's Zoom. It's been a while, feel a little bit rusty. But today and this week, what we're going to be talking about is micronutrients. So, this was a topic that was requested by a few of you. Obviously, in our weekly check-in forums, I asked you guys any ideas that you have or topics that you want covered. And micronutrients keeps coming up. So, let's talk about it. And more specifically, micronutrients for fat loss, muscle building, and mental health, because I think that's actually a really key one. So, let's start off with the basics. What are micronutrients? So, for those of you that listen over, I'll give you a couple of seconds just to think. What are micronutrients? We might know what a macronutrient is. We might know what that includes, but what would a micronutrient be? Okay, we know macronutrients are energy. We know it's in our food, and we always get macronutrient targets, but we never really hear about micronutrients. So take a think. What could that be? Okay, so micronutrients. So these are things like vitamins, minerals, and trace elements that we find in foods. So they're small amounts, but they can have a big impact, especially and more so when you have a deficiency. So micronutrients can help and aid in performance, recovery, repair, but it's not necessarily one of those things where if you take more of it, you see a benefit. It's more so if you don't have enough, you'll definitely kind of feel the impact of not having enough rather than being able to abuse it, if that makes sense. So let's go on to the next question. So why micronutrients matter for you? Lost my words there. So that's the thing is like, okay, cool. So why does it matter for me and my goals? And what we're going to do is we're going to go through every single goal, whether it be fat loss, muscle gain, or mental health. So why does it matter for you? Overall, micronutrients will help with your metabolism and energy production. It will help with your hormone production and regulation. It helps with muscle function and growth, your bone health, antioxidant protection, and immune function. So, really, like these things are going crazy. They're in our body, they're working hard, they're just as important as our macronutrients. And they're very, very pivotal for kind of like the not so much the building blocks, but maybe the transport to get to building blocks. They're like the little helpers, the little workers that go around and make sure that everything's working properly. So, focus on fat loss and how micronutrients can help you with your fat loss goals. Let's talk about it and which ones in particular. So, vitamin B, I'm going to keep these slides nice and simple because you could go and like I always do this. I'm always doing this. Like, oh, talk about something and then I'll go on a massive tangent, like I probably am now, and then everyone actually just forgets about the information. So I'm going to keep these slides really simple. And if you want to have a discussion or a topic, you can message me or you can comment in the comments down below. But for fat loss, what we're going to focus on is vitamin B, as it helps convert food into energy. Okay, there are B vitamins. Vitamin D, that helps to regulate leptin, which is a storage of fat. Calcium, which helps breakdown of fat cells and the oxidization of fat. So, calcium, when we talk about the oxidization of fat, we're talking about when we're just going for a steady stroll. The oxidization, so that's when oxygen is used as a fuel and we're burning our fat. Okay, so that's really important for that. And magnesium, as magnesium plays a role in insulin sensitivity and actually can hinder and aid in fat burning. Okay, so if we don't have enough magnesium, it can have an impact on your insulin sensitivity and your sugar levels, which can then also impact your fat burning. Okay, so these are kind of like the micronutrients that you'd want to focus on for your fat loss goals. Okay, now what micronutrients can help you with muscle growth? Okay, so these are we're completely separating them. We're saying, okay, cool. So this is what you want to focus on for fat loss. This is what you're going to focus on for muscle growth, and then in the next part, we're going to talk about mental health. So if you're focusing on muscle growth, these are the four vitamins I want you to focus on. Zinc. Okay, so this is a key part of muscle protein synthesis and also the production of testosterone. Okay, so if you have a deficiency in zinc, hello, like your production of testosterone is going to be hindered. Um, and again, it's not one of those things where it's like if you overdose on zinc, it's like a steroid. That's not how it works. But if you don't have enough zinc, it will impact your production. So you want enough zinc in the body. And if you don't feel like you're getting that, then supplementation of zinc is going to help you. Vitamin D helps to absorb calcium, which is crucial for muscle contraction. Okay, because what happens is when we contract or use our muscles, what we have is like little hands that kind of clip together and they help us, you know, move that muscle. So, if we think about a bicep curl and we curl our arm, it's actually calcium, tiny little bits of calcium that help connect that and pull that. So the actual absorption of calcium is really important, especially when we're looking at muscle growth. So vitamin D is pivotal. Iron, as it delivers oxygen to the muscles. And I want to talk about vitamin K. So there's a lot of studies recently looking into vitamin K and, muscle mass, strength, could have some benefits, but it's not conclusive. Like all science and research, it's an ever-going science, so we never have a definitive answer. So there's some things we know, and there's some things that are still going on. So when it comes to vitamin K, there could be benefits, and there are studies that show that with a higher vitamin K supplementation, there could be benefits to strength and muscle mass. However, it's not for everyone. And also, just because, and this is a really important thing when we're looking at data or evidence or studies, is correlation isn't always causation. So just because people have a high vitamin K supplementation doesn't mean that the muscle mass or them having a higher muscle mass or strength is the causation of the vitamin K. It might just mean that they have a better overall diet. Vitamin K comes from green like foods and plants. So maybe they just have a better balanced diet, and therefore that's what's contributing to higher strength and muscle mass. But it is interesting, it is worth noting. Now, what micronutrient is going to help or focus on mental focus and mental health? Okay. So, for mental focus and mental health, omega 3s. Okay. Pivotal for your brain cell structure. Omega 3s, where do you find this? Fatty acids, think like salmon, fatty fishes, or of course, supplementation, whatever is best for you if you don't like fish or, you're vegetarian or vegan. Okay. You can get vegan supplementation for omega 3s, don't worry. Magnesium, again, helps reduce anxiety and stress. So, again, like for me, I always say about magnesium for bed and help you sleep has a little bit to do with anxiety and stress, reducing that so you can go to sleep nice and peacefully. Zinc, again, coming up. Deficiency, and this is really interesting. And again, like, I like to talk about research, I like to talk about papers. It's a good conversation, it's a good topic. It's good to know what's going on in the scientific world. Zinc can actually be linked to neuropsychological dysfunction and including depression. And the study that I cited there was actually, this was done in 2022, was actually looking at the supplementation of zinc and how that impacted depression, actually the prevention and, like the worsening of depression. And actually what they found is it was a randomized controlled trial, so including human beings, not rats or mice or anything like that. And it was a meta-analysis actually seeing, how like what impact did this have? And actually 28% of people saw benefit with zinc supplementation with mental health and depression. So you can have a research of that paper, you can have a look at that paper. I paraphrased it to hell just then, but it is interesting. And all I want to do is I just want to spark, some ideas in the brain. Just like, okay, cool, like this is out here. Have a look into it. It's cool. It's interesting. Vitamin B and C supplements. Okay, so when we talk about mental focus, again, supporting your neurotransmitter synthesis. So again, just helping, your brain to function pretty much. So, and again, we'll talk about why vitamin B and C are good supplements to take in the next bit. So these ones, if you're focusing on mental health. So again, we've kind of gone through the three kind of bits, and this is a little bit of an FYI. So FYI, so for those of you that are focused on fat loss, this is just a key little thing to think about. Dieting means fewer calories, right? And higher chance to miss out on micronutrients if you haven't thought about your diet properly. Think about it. Restrictive diets, it will increase the risk of deficiency as you cut food groups out, or you're not having as much food overall. So you really have to think about what you're consuming and what you're putting into your body if you're in a fat loss phase and you're dieting. Less food means less energy, which means more fatigue, more brain fog, poor recovery, and cravings. Okay, so you really have to think about your diet, especially when you're in a fat loss phase. Next, is supplement necessary or supplementation necessary? Okay, so what we're going to talk about is common deficiencies. So, iron impacts 25% of people worldwide. So, there's actually an iron deficiency in 25% of the people worldwide. So, that's one in four people. Okay, so that's, again, just something to think about. Vitamin D, one in five people will have a deficiency in the UK. especially when it comes to the winter months. Okay. At the minute, as of me recording right now, I am boiling. The sun is dangerous for me to go out in. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm ginger, so I need an umbrella when I go out. So vitamin D isn't a problem during these months, and we start to build up our stores. So we actually store vitamin D in the body. So when it comes to winter time, probably around November through to February, that's when we're most deficient. That's when we see deficiencies. And as you can see, actually, and I try to avoid talking about the same supplements or the same micronutrients in every single slide, but vitamin D comes up a lot. So just another thing to think about. Vitamin B12, 80 to 90% of vegans and vegetarians actually, sorry, I thought I spelled vegetarians wrong then, just having a look. Vitamin B12, again, because that comes from our meat sources, essentially. Vegans and vegetarians will see deficiency in that. And again, that can cause energy problems, and, some mental health problems there, potentially. It's not, again, like, don't quote me on that, but, if you're struggling with energy and, some mental clarity, vitamin B12 should be something you're aware of if you're vegan or vegetarian. And then just again, like what I kind of said earlier, B and C vitamins, they're not stored in the body. So they'll be excreted through urine if they're not needed. So you see all these energy drinks or, like health drinks, they're just packed with vitamin B's and C's. That's because like you drink it. If your body doesn't need it, just go in the toilet. And if you find that you've had a lot of like energy drinks and stuff and you've gone to the toilet and it's kind of like this orangey or yellowy, glowy like look, that's the B vitamins. Okay. So if you're kind of like, oh my God, my wee is like, it looks like nuclear waste. It's just the B vitamins. They're just clearing out the body because your body doesn't need it. So it's generally safer for supplementation. So again, kind of going back and asking the question, is supplementation necessary? In the UK, it's actually advised that everyone supplements vitamin D. Again, when it comes to supplementation, you always want to talk to, your GP or, a health professional. But vitamin D, for those of us who are in the UK, is always recommended. This slide or like this kind of presentation is just to talk to you about what vitamins impact your certain goals. So again, I just want to recap. So it's not telling you that you need to supplement, but it's just a little bit of education on supplement and micronutrients. So if your main goal is fat loss, vitamin B, vitamin D, calcium and magnesium, I would supplement or have a look into. For muscle growth, zinc, vitamin D, iron, have a look into vitamin K. And then when we're talking about mental focus or mental health, omega-3, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin B and C supplements. Okay. So these are things just to have a look at. And then when you're buying these supplements or you're having a look, for those of you that are in the program, if you're thinking about getting certain supplements, have a look, see what the recommendations are. So you'll see like your daily recommendation, if it's around 100%, 200%, whatever. Have a look and see what's there. Um, be careful. Actually, think about what you're purchasing, what you're buying, because what a lot of the supplement companies will do, they'll just put loads and loads of B vitamins. So you look at the packaging and it'll be like B B B B B B, and then you only get like one little bit of iron or something like that. So make sure you're actually reading the packages and have a look at what those dosages are, and make sure you're not over consuming on things like the vitamin K, the vitamin A, the vitamin E, because we actually store those. So through a good balanced diet, you probably won't be deficient. So just think about that as well. And that's why I say B and C vitamins, they're not stored. So it's generally safe for supplementation because you can absolutely take too much of the vitamin as well. Again, vitamin D, we actually recommend it in the UK because you don't get much sunlight. So that's okay as well. Iron, you can definitely overdose on iron. However, with the amount of iron deficiency we have, it's unlikely, but it can happen. So it's just something to be aware of. So that's micronutrients for each kind of muscle or each kind of goal. Hope that helped. Hope that gave you some insight. If there's any questions, we're going to go through that now. For those of you that are in the program, we're going to do like an open Q&A now. So if you have any questions, we're going to have a discussion. For anyone that's listening back or watching this on YouTube, drop a comment down below and we can answer those questions and have a discussion. Hopefully this gave a little bit of insight. If you want me to elaborate or go into anything in further depth, let me know in the future. And yeah, thank you for swinging around and hopefully this helped you. See you in the next episode. Ciao.